the heartland, where the land stretches out forever, and the stories buried beneath its soil often go unheard. Here, in a place where whispered secrets traveled faster than the prairie wind, lived a young woman named Sarah. Picture her, 20 years old, slender with a grace that belied the weariness etched on her face. Her hands, though delicate, bore the marks of hard work, and her eyes, the windows to a soul far older than her years, often held a distant sorrow. She was caught in a silent storm, the bills piled high on the kitchen table before her, a chilling reminder of the desperation that surrounded her and her family. The quiet hum of worry always present in that farmhouse, almost a living thing. Her mother's cough, a ragged, relentless sound, was the ever-present soundtrack to their lives. Each hack a tiny hammer blow against her young heart. "Sarah, could you a little water?" her mother would wheeze. Each request a fresh burden Sarah felt duty-bound to carry. She'd jump up, a fragile strength masking her own exhaustion, filling a glass from the tap, that familiar sound filling the kitchen. "Rest, Mama, I'll figure something out," Sarah would whisper, words that felt empty and full of a desperate hope she could barely feel. But her words were always met with the knowing eyes of her mother. She knew, no matter what Sarah did, they would always be one step away from falling into the abyss of poverty. Then one evening, something unexpected sliced through the quiet desperation. A sleek, black Cadillac, the kind you only see in movies or on the covers of magazines, glided to a stop at the end of their neglected road. It was a creature out of place, a wolf in sheep's clothing against the gentle landscape. Out of this machine stepped a man named William Carter. He was a figure cut from a different cloth, his silver hair catching the dying light, his impeccably tailored suit a stark contrast to the dusty environment. His gait was slow, deliberate, and each movement exuded an almost unsettling sense of authority. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't shake off the feeling that something big was about to change in her life. He introduced himself with a deep, steady voice that resonated with a power she'd only seen in movie villains. He spoke of his holdings, his vast influence, and then the unimaginable. He offered Sarah a proposal so bizarre, so outside the realm of her humble existence, it made her question her own sanity. "Marry me," he said, his gaze unwavering, her world tilted on its axis. This was not a love story, not a fairy tale. This was a business transaction, a cold calculation masked as an act of bizarre benevolence. "I'll ensure your family's security," he continued, his words echoing like a promise, yet sounding more like a chilling declaration. "Your mother's medical bills, your brother's education, all taken care of." The world was offering her a golden cage in exchange for her freedom. That night, silence filled the small house, heavy with the weight of this impossible offer. Her mother, her voice weakened by illness, whispered her disbelief, but her coughs were a constant reminder of their plight. Sarah was torn. This was not the love she dreamed of, but maybe it was the only way to stop the darkness from swallowing her family whole. Maybe this is our only chance," she'd stammer, her own words a testament to her desperation. But in her heart, she knew it felt like making a pact with the devil. The days that followed were a blur. Her neighbors' gossips painted a picture of a poor girl trading herself for gold. The wedding day arrived, cold and stark, as if the weather itself knew the emptiness beneath the grandeur. As she walked to her wedding, her younger brother's gaze held so much emotion. It felt as though it could break his young heart. She whispered into the mirror, "Am I making the biggest mistake of my life?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, as she stepped into the unknown. She arrived at the mansion, a colossal structure looming on a lonely hill, an ice palace against the landscape. The foyer was a monument to wealth, cold, echoing, and devoid of warmth. Everything screamed opulence, yet felt strangely devoid of life. Mary, the housekeeper, greeted her with a forced smile, a woman in her late 60s, with eyes that had seen too much. She led Sarah to a modest room, plain compared to the rest of the house. But Sarah was told, "This is yours. If you need anything, the staff are here." "But," she added, her voice laced with a warning, "it's best not to ask too many questions." What could this mean? Sarah wondered. Why would a home of immense wealth feel so heavy and oppressive? She would soon find out. The following days settled into a bizarre rhythm of forced smiles, silent dinners, and solitary days. William, now her husband, was always either absent or consumed by his work. Their conversations were sparse, distant, like polite strangers sharing a table. One evening, Sarah gathered her courage to ask, "What work could possibly keep you out so late?" William's fork paused in midair. His gaze, when he met hers, was cold, distant. "Business," he replied curtly, ending the conversation as quickly as it had started. And then, the unsettling sounds began. Soft creaking sounds at night, like footsteps in the hallway, that would suddenly stop, as if he was listening from beyond the darkness. Curiosity, a dangerous seed, had been sown. Sarah began exploring the mansion, wandering through its grand but empty rooms. In the west wing, she found a door unlike all the others, heavily reinforced, with no visible keyhole. A chill ran down her spine as she reached for the handle. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Mary warned, her face grave. What was behind that door? And why did William seem so intent on hiding it? That evening, a car engine pulled up outside. Sarah peeked through the window to see William speaking to a shadowy figure in a trench coat. "Make sure she doesn't find out," she heard William say, his voice hard and commanding. What was he hiding from her? The words were a hammer blow against her heart, and she felt not just trapped but threatened. The mystery surrounding William and the mansion itself was turning sinister. Driven by a strange mix of fear and desperation, one night she found the door unlocked. She stepped inside, her heart pounding, the creak of the door echoing through the silence. The room was filled with old books, documents, and framed photographs. On a large mahogany desk, a stack of yellowed papers sat beside an ornate pen. Sarah picked up one of the photos. It showed William beside a young woman, smiling stiffly, far too young to be with him. And then another photo, and another, each one with a different young woman. All of them young and beautiful, all of them smiling faintly. William found her there, his face a chilling mix of anger and control. He demanded to know why she was in this room, a place that was forbidden. Sarah confronted him, her voice trembling but firm. "What happened to them, William? Your previous wives? Where are they?" For a moment, she thought she saw a flicker of something different in his eyes, like a human being for just a millisecond, before the cold mask returned. "You're my wife now, that's all that matters." His words sent a wave of terror through her. She wasn't in a marriage, she was imprisoned, and she was a target. She knew she needed to get out of this house, but how? The atmosphere of the mansion grew colder, heavier each day. Sarah confided in Mary, whose silent strength had become a source of comfort. "You're different, Sarah. You have the strength to get out," she whispered, a glimmer of hope shining through her eyes. "Help me please," she begged. Mary revealed secrets, letters, and documents that confirmed William's involvement in the disappearances of his previous wives. They had all tried to leave, and none had made it. Together, they hatched an escape plan, a daring act of defiance against a man who believed he held all the power. They would wait for the moment he would leave on one of his late-night excursions. This plan gave Sarah hope, but she was more terrified than ever before. The night came. The tension hung heavy in the air. William left, and Sarah, her heart pounding in her chest, put their plan into motion. She slipped into the basement, into a hidden passageway, a secret tunnel that stretched into the darkness. Each step was a risk, a leap of faith into the unknown. She found an old passage and entered it, hoping that it would lead to her escape. Emerging from the tunnel, she found herself in the forest, her lungs burning, branches scratching her skin. Behind her, flashlights bobbed in the darkness, William's men hunting her. She ran, her only desire to escape this gilded cage. She knew she was so close, she could almost taste her freedom. Suddenly, headlights appeared, a car pulled up. "Get in," a man yelled. "I'm James. I know about William Carter." James, it turned out, was an investigative journalist. He had been tracking William for years, and he had been waiting for this moment. Sarah leaped into the car, clutching the damning journal. They sped away, a black SUV pursuing them. Sarah knew this wouldn't be a clean escape. She looked at James, telling him everything. "This is everything," she said. "Names, dates, how he silenced his previous wives, it's all here." James nodded, glancing at her. "With this and my evidence, we can bring him down." He knew, like she did, this wasn't over, it was only the beginning. They knew William would not let her go easily, not when he had spent years getting away with murder. But Sarah had something he never expected: courage, and the courage of others who had suffered before her. In the end, their combined strength was what he underestimated. The truth finally emerged. William Carter, the powerful tycoon, was exposed as a predator, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. Families of victims came forward, their grief mixed with gratitude for the bravery of Sarah and James. Together, they worked to see justice finally served. Sarah used her experience to inspire others. She opened a community center, offering support and a safe space for women in crisis. She named it New Beginnings, a testament to her own journey. "Your past does not define you. Your courage to change does," she would say, her voice strong with conviction, reminding the women that there was always light after the darkness. As Sarah's bond with James deepened, what started as a partnership of survival turned into a love, a bond of two people who had known darkness. "Sarah," he said, "you've shown me what real courage looks like. You've taught me that even the most broken paths can lead to something beautiful. Will you let me stand by your side forever?" Her answer was simple, sincere, and resounding. "Yes," she said, with tears in her eyes, but tears that were filled with a deep happiness. Sarah looked back on her life, the challenges, the terror, the triumph. She reflected on her journey with a sense of wonder and a deep understanding. She was not broken, she was strengthened. Sometimes, life takes you through the darkness to show you the value of light. Her voice is filled with hope. "I wouldn't be here today without the people who believed in me. And for that, I am forever grateful." She looked towards the future with the knowledge that this isn't the end of a chapter, but the start of a whole new story. This was just one story, a story of courage, of hope, of a woman that chose to fight when she could have given up. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories and turn on notifications so you never miss another tale that reminds you of the beauty of the human spirit. Until next time, take care, stay strong, and always believe in new beginnings. See you in the next story.